Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy you could join us today for our webinar. Is your QMS on the right track to uncover cost of poor quality risks? So before we start, a quick housekeeping item. Please feel free to submit questions through the Q&A chat. We will have plenty of time at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. And just a quick introduction to our speakers today. I'm very excited to have my coworker, Tom Barlow, join me. Tom is a strategic solution engineer at ETQ. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you.
Good. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Jennifer Bianchini, also at ETQ, and I'm on the product marketing team. Okay, so here's a quick glance at the agenda for today. We'll go over some of the factors that can make the world of quality management complex and the ripple effect that poor quality can have across your organization. Then we'll touch on how a quality management system can help with setting standards to help get those costs down. And then Tom will provide you with some tips for using an EQMS to ensure everyone has visibility into the cost of quality. And then we'll do a quick wrap up so we have plenty of time at the end for your questions. So don't be shy. Enter those questions in the chat because this time's for you, helping you to be a quality champion. Okay, so let's dive in, shall we? All right, so to kick things off, I really love to get the pulse on what are some of your primary sources of quality related cost at your organization. So you should have seen a pop up window come up on your screen with some options for responding to this. So we'll go ahead and click on any one of the following. If it's supply chain, your suppliers aren't quite coming through with your requirements, or scrap. You have a high volume of scrap that's affecting the bottom line, or excess inventory. Are you carrying extra inventory for those just in case moments? Or is it field support, customer complaints, a batch product didn't quite meet all of the specs and unfortunately made its way to the market? Or you're not sure. And that's okay because we are all here to learn today. So we'll give it about another second or so, and we will take a look at the results. Okay, let's see what everyone chose. Oh, okay. It's pretty close between supply chain, which I'm not surprised to hear about lately, and scrap. Okay, so very interesting. Very close between the two. And then not too far behind field support customer complaints. All right, thanks everyone for indulging me on that. And let's go ahead and jump into by starting to take a look at some of the key challenges that you as manufacturers face when it comes to quality. Now, there are a lot of pain points we can dive into as we just saw with our poll question. Compliance burdens, documentation headaches, supplier issues, employee engagement, audit prep, you name it. Okay, but for today's conversation, we're going to narrow in on the cost of poor quality because it's one of the biggest struggles we hear about consistently from our conversations with manufacturers and customers. And this is where we see the greatest opportunity for immediate improvement in ROI. It affects nearly every organization, whether, as we saw, defects, rework, customer complaints, or those warranty claims. But the real challenge are those costs that are often hidden. They're buried deep in your operations, and they're not tracked in a way that leadership can act on. And without visibility, they quietly and slowly begin to erode into profit margins and efficiency. So, like I said, there are many areas we can explore, but for the rest of our time, we're just going to zero in on this, what it is and what it's costing you. Okay, so before we dive into the two types of poor quality, let's level set on what it means. So, according to ASQ, our host for today, the total financial loss from errors and substandard work. So, what does that mean? In other words, it's what it costs you when you don't get things right the first time. So, let's chip away at this. This is the classic iceberg model. We've all seen it before because it's such a great way to think about these costs. So, above the surface, you have the visible cost, what we had in our poll, the scrap, the rework, and warranty claims. They show up in your reports, your financial statements, and your 10K statements. But below the surface, that's where the real danger lurks. These are the hidden costs. So, production delays, missed deliveries, extra inventory, brand damage, and even lost future business. So, let's say a non conforming raw material item, it halts production. So, do you overcompensate to make up for it, or do you delay shipments to your customers? What does that do to your reputation or your certification? And this is just one hidden cost with a ripple effect across your entire operation. And here's the thing, these costs, they add up fast. So, on average, poor quality cost at a company is between 10 to 15% of operations. And in some cases, it can be closer to 40%. So here's a question for you to think about. What would it mean for your business if you could eliminate just 10% of those hidden costs? That's a pretty powerful impact, and exactly why visibility into quality is so critical. Okay, so we have the foundations for better understanding the cost of poor quality. So the visible and the hidden costs. So how do you, as a quality champion, start to fix it? So let's get out that quality champion hat and put it on. The best and easiest way is to start with an electronic quality management system. It's one of the smartest ways to start reducing the cost of quality. So when you have an EQMS in place, you can start to track the waste, the scrap, the rework, the complaints, warranty costs, everything we have been talking about, all in one system. And it's not just compliance, it's about controlling cost, preventing field failures, and protecting your brand. And our customers can back this up. So, not that long ago, we did a third party study and they reported real savings. Our customers reported real savings, especially in costs tied to non conforming material. And one of the key results that came out of the study was a 10% reduction in field failure costs. And that's a big number and a big reason why more teams are making the move to an EQMS. So the other points you see highlighted here are other ROI drivers that our customers shared with us. And this is showing real world results that they received using a quality management system. Okay, so now I'd like to share with you some of those real life customer examples our customers experienced to reduce the cost of quality with an EQMS. So, back in around 2012, GE Transportation implemented ETQ Alliance to help them get ahead of their quality issues. So before the products even made it into their customer hands. And when you're building locomotives, a single quality problem can be extremely costly. So fast forward to 2019, after merging with Wabtec, they didn't just keep using ETQ Reliance, they expanded it company wide. And the results, well, they're pretty impressive. If you take a look here, they saved 30 million every year from improvements with their quality management programs. Um, they also were able to cut the cost of poor quality by 15%, including slashing their tooling costs in half. And over the last decade, they've seen an extra 10 to 20 million in productivity gains. So it's a really good example of how investing in a quality early on really pays off over time. So one more example I'd like to share with you is Avanos. They are a medical device company and they were dealing with old paper-based audit processes. And we're talking about slow manual processes that were getting difficult for them to manage. But when they made the switch over to a digital system, not only did they streamline those audits, but they also became MD SAP compliant across global locations. And the impact was pretty huge. So they were able to gain better visibility and reduce costs, and they achieved a 315% return on their investment in their quality management system. Yes, I said that right. 315% return. So that is a major win for both compliance and their bottom line. Okay, so now I'd like to turn it over to Tom, where he will show you some tips for using your EQMS to gain visibility into those hidden costs. So, Tom, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. So let's talk about some of the things that Jennifer already mentioned regarding the ways that you can reduce the cost of poor quality, such as reducing the risk of noncompliance, streamlining operations, reducing costs, growing and protecting revenue. One of the things that having a platform-based solution like ours that can be harmonized across the entire organization is that it allows you to collect the data in a consistent manner so that you can always be aware of the issues that you're having. We would argue that if you're not aware of the issues, of course, you can't solve them. You don't know what problems to solve unless you're capturing the details around that. So this diagram is really what we refer to as the closed loop quality management solution, which allows you to track issues of all types of different sources from different places, including other systems that you might already be using. And then through the harmonized implementation of our system across the globe within your organization, as well as the integration with other systems, we can harmonize everything into a single source of the truth, essentially. So you'll notice in the center of this diagram, there's the corrective action or CAPA process. That's the issue. Once you have the issue defined and you decide that you're going to do a corrective action, that's how you're going to ensure continuous improvement. But this diagram on the left, the left side of this diagram, really refers to some of the most common types of issues that occur within a QMS. So on the top left, you have customer issues that are coming in. You might have your existing customer relationship management tool where you capture those issues. One of our strategies is to have the ability to integrate with virtually any other system. So if you look at the manufacturer call center box there and then go down, on the top left is the customer feedback application or process on our platform. So a real-time integration would push the record into our system. It would then use standard workflow functionality on our platform, because once again, streamlining operations was one of those issues that Jennifer brought up. You can pre-configure business rules into our platform so that it automates your own processes and procedures. It might know who to assign it to based on role, based on the type of issue, based on the type of product, based on where it is in the world. So the system is already going to be alerting automatically whoever needs to know about the issue. And then from there, you might be able to launch other processes. You can launch nonconformance reports on the bottom left. You can launch a customer return, an RMA. That also might interact with your ERP system. So you have to issue credits or whatever it might be for that return, or when the return comes in, you have to do some sort of a financial transaction. What you're doing is you're automating the process into a single automated end-to-end process instead of having to have manual interaction where you have different silos and people have to do different things manually, and you're depending on those people to do them, and they may not always do it the correct way. The other type of an issue, in addition to a customer complaint, might come in through a manufacturing nonconformance, whether you're using some sort of a tool to automatically capture data, or if you have some sort of a MES tool, a manufacturing execution system, where you identify a problem, or if it's an incoming issue from a supplier, that could identify an issue, which once again, through a real-time integration, could launch a nonconformance report within a system such as ETQ Reliance. And that has its own workflow for material review board and making a disposition decision. Another part of it, of course, and streamlining your processes and reducing risk, is the ability to launch a supplier corrective action, which then, using a capability that our platform has called external collaboration, literally allows you to send the issue directly to your supplier. So you don't have to send them a separate email. You don't have to call them on the phone anymore. As the as the supplier quality engineer responsible for that supplier, you don't have to use Headspace to worry about your supplier responding in a timely manner, because our tools workflow at its, which is what basically we have workflow at our core, which allows you to define business processes. It sends assignment emails with people, to people with a hyperlink to the records. Each user has their own homepage with a list of all their current assignments. And then the other thing that's really, really powerful, especially when you consider the ability to incorporate external users, such as suppliers and contractors, is the platform level escalation utility that sends reminders as due dates approach. So now, with external collaboration, you're assigning things directly to users that are actually in your supplier's organization. Our system has guardrails where they can only see the information that pertains to them. They can't access everything else in your tool. We have this thing called contextual awareness, where if you have a larger organization, you can use a hierarchy to define your own organizational structure. And then only certain people from certain places, if you want them to, can only see the records that pertain to them. But then managers that are higher up, because of the harmonization concept, because you're using the same fields to track the same things with the same keywords, as soon as someone completes a record in our system, it's immediately available for analytics, reporting, and trend analysis. So you don't have to wait for the occasion of something like a management review meeting to run these reports, because you have silos in your current solutions that often require a tremendous amount of effort to manipulate the data. I call it Microsoft Excel gymnastics. You often have to pull data manually from different sources, and therefore you have to wait for the occasion of the management review meeting to do that. With our harmonized platform, what you're doing is you're reducing the risk of noncompliance essentially by having all this information captured automatically and immediately available for analytics and reporting purposes. So we would argue that you can make better business decisions faster because you have the information readily available to you, instead of having to wait for something to happen in order to make it available, such as someone pulling numbers and data together from different sources. So the first two types of issues that I described here is the customer complaint. The other one is the product nonconformance report that could launch a supplier corrective action. All these processes are connected to each other. When you launch one record from another, it inherits details from the source record into the new record. We call it the target record. And then we also have hyperlinking back and forth between these records. So there's full traceability after everything is done. So the other thing about our system is, not only does it get used to automate your business processes to ensure reducing the risk of noncompliance and streamlining your processes as I described, but the completed records automatically become objective evidence of what was done. So when you have silos and disparate systems, oftentimes during an audit, people get stressed out and they have to concern themselves with, are we really going to be able to find this information? I have to depend on the previous person that did the process to make sure they put the information in the right place. With our system and the workflow ensuring that your business processes are guided through your different business processes with our workflows and business rules that can be built in, the completed records automatically become objective evidence. The other type of an issue that can be identified in addition to customer complaints and nonconformances, those of you that manage quality management systems understand the importance of audits to verify compliance on a regular basis. We have a very robust application to manage audits, planning, conducting audits. We can support mobile devices, and you can take the audit with you, whether it's an internal audit or supplier audit or whatever the case might be, leveraging the onboard camera to take pictures and things like that. But when you identify a problem during an audit, you can click a button and launch what's called a quality event. You can see that one just to the left of corrective action on this diagram. That could be the single source of all issues where you identify things, whether they're customer complaints, whether they're nonconformances, whether it's someone just observing something that may not be being done correctly. It doesn't fit into a category of complaint, or it doesn't fit into the category of a product nonconformance, but it might just be a noncompliance that you want to bring to someone's attention. So this workflow in this application has a robust process to, first of all, determine if it's even worthy of any further action. We call it track and trend, because track and trend means, no, we don't have to do anything more right now, but we want to track and trend it so that later we can evaluate the types of issues that we're having in the bigger picture. And once again, across the entire enterprise because of that harmonization. If it's worthy of a further action, we can click a button and launch a corrective action, which then ties into multiple other processes. Each action that's proposed in the action plan within the corrective action application, once it's approved, once the action plan is approved, the system uses standard workflow functionality to now launch additional processes like reviewing and revising documents, making sure training is done. Not only do we have action items for those, but we also happen to have applications for those things on the platform. We have a workflow for the review, approval, distribution, and revision of documents. That ties right into our training management application to make sure that people are not only aware of what they have to know, but there's objective evidence that they're either acknowledging those new versions of documents or new documents, or they're showing that they're competent because they're passing tests about those particular documents. So the idea here is what we bring to the table as a web-based, workflow-based business process automation platform is a completely closed loop within not just your quality management system, but any compliance management system. I'm just going to mention this just for honorable mention, if you will. Another type of an issue that organizations face are safety issues, accidents, incidents, or observations. That's another whole thing, safety management systems or SMS, that fits into compliance management as well. It's not shown on this diagram, but we have a whole solution for that as well. So if you think about it, there's a lot of synergy that can occur around any compliance management issue. And it's all about the cumulative reduction of cost a little bit at a time. As Jennifer showed earlier, we have some very powerful use cases where customers have saved millions of dollars on issues and the cost of poor quality, and that has a direct effect on revenue, of course, and brand reputation and your position in the industry. So, Jennifer, I think that'll be my little contribution for now.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. I think it's some really great information in there, and I think everyone discovered some helpful tips today. So before we go over to the Q&A, I would just like to take a moment and share a little bit more about ETQ with you. As I'm sure you are aware, there are lots of phases in the EQMS journey, but no matter where you are in your journey at ETQ, we are ready to help you. We have a comprehensive purpose-built EQMS where you can, as we've been talking about today, reducing costs, streamlining operations, and building compliance into your processes that result in improved efficiency, time to market, sustainability, and probably most importantly, bottom line results. We also offer a range of professional services, including managed services, to meet you at any stage of your quality journey. And as you can see with ETQ, you are in good company. We serve hundreds of customers of all shapes and sizes, and we're not hyper focused on one industry, but we support many industries and we apply those learnings and best practices across all of the industries to provide a unique value to all of our customers. We've been doing this for over 30 years, empowering quality champions like you to use quality management as a catalyst for business success. And we aim to be your trusted advisor. And we'd love to have the opportunity to share our expertise with you. And just very briefly here, we're also a part of Hexagon, a global leader in sensor software and autonomous manufacturing solutions. So, all right, thanks for letting me share a little bit more about ETQ with you. We have now reached the point of the Q&A section of our webinar. So hopefully you have had your quality champion hats on and you have some really good questions for us. Are you ready, Tom?
Let's do this thing.
All righty. Okay, so let's take a peek here. Um, okay, so I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Uh, Nir Narendra Patel. Can you please provide an example of supplier performance measurement matrix?
Yes, I mean, I can speak to it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to share my screen during this session, but we do have a whole supply chain quality solution within our system. And if you think about the different inputs into supplier management and into supplier rating, we can capture all that. And a lot of it is within our own system. We have supplier performance, supplier delivery, on-time delivery, incoming quality from inspections, audit results, number of supplier corrective actions against that supplier for that particular product, number of non-conformances against that supplier. All that information in our system is actually, they're actually inputs into what we call supplier rating. So the application has the ability by type of product or commodity to have different scoring profiles that literally define what percentage of each of those data points are going to contribute to the overall score. And when I say score, I'm not talking about the score of just the supplier, but we have the ability to rate each individual product and service that that particular supplier provides. And then what happens from that, and this is probably the most powerful part of that. Once you know the rating of each product and service, you essentially know the risk of your working with that supplier. If they have an exceptional rating, there's probably a very high probability that the next time they ship you something, there will not be a problem. So therefore, we would argue, why spend the same time and resources on evaluating it or invest in inspecting it, basically? Maybe spot check it, maybe implement what's called skip lot, so that we know for the next 3 shipments, we're not going to do any formal inspection. We're just going to do a spot check. But then maybe the 4th shipment that comes in, we'll do another inspection just to make sure they're still on track. Or the reciprocal of that is if they're a poor rating, that's risk right there, because there's a good chance that when you do business with that supplier, there's a high probability that there's going to be a problem. And the minute you miss that problem, it becomes your problem in your quality management system, right? So you would then be able to, using incoming inspection, know that there's a problem with that particular supplier or product, and therefore your inspections might be more stringent. So what we're going to be able to do is have that feedback loop and that real-time data, and we can certainly talk offline or in another, another call some other time to talk about some of this as well. So we appreciate that. Was a good question.
All right, thank you, Tom. We have a question from Sasha about petro diagrams. You run a petro diagram to see which issues have the biggest uh, negative impact to the business to solve the right one first?
If you're capturing the data on the cost of poor quality within your system, then you can use either our own analytics tool called ETQ Insights. That's part of our offering, or we can also allow you to use your own third-party reporting tool. A lot of organizations use Power BI and Tableau and other tools that are good at pulling all this complex data together. So those charts that you just referred to, provided that the source data is available, we would be able to feed right into right into those charts and give you that information that you need.
Okay, great. Thank you. Um, Here is another question. How can you make a supplier, no, sorry, how do you make a supplier respond on the supplier corrective action request form when he is the only supplier and your corporations depend on him? And that's from Naren.
Ah, that's an interesting question. We would argue that it's a very constructive relationship, the relationship with your supplier. The goal is to improve the relationship with that supplier and the quality of the products and services that they provide to you. So while the system does have ways to automate the reminders to suppliers and whatnot, there are other ways that you can work with them as well to ensure that they complete their things in a timely manner. It's an interesting little twist is that they're the sole supplier, right? So they're the only one, but by the same token, you're still the customer. So the idea is that you can have a constructive relationship with that supplier to ensure that everyone benefits. When their quality improves, your quality improves, you're selling more, which means you have to buy more from them. So that's really the hope.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. Here's a question about CAPAs from Martin. So, if through the CAPA portion of your EQMS, you discover a root cause,
Hmm.
from that root cause, you determine a set of corrective actions, say a change to a spec. Do you need to then file a CC through the same EQMS? Would this not add to the cost of quality unnecessarily?
So that's a really good question. The idea is that if you can do it efficiently without having to pull all these other non-necessary and wasteful resources in, um, we would argue that the corrective action itself is a change, right? And the ability to have an action plan to assign different tasks to different people to have complete and coordinate them in a timely manner, we would argue that the corrective action is nothing more than another way to implement a change. So it may seem like you're wasting time with change, but what our system does is it can handle complexity with simplicity because it's global in its use once it's implemented. It then has the ability to coordinate all these different things that have to happen, whether it's a simple set of things or more complex. And it could be dynamic based on the type of issue or the type of change that's required. So you don't have to necessarily go through and jump through all these flaming hoops every single time because maybe the worst case scenario requires it. Our business rules and the configurability of the platform allow the amount of things that have to be done and the number of people that have to approve them, for example, can be different based upon and in fact on a case by case basis and automated. So it's not forcing you to go through the same thing every single time.
Great. Thanks. Here's a question from Michael. Can you connect your EQMS with Infor?
Yes. So our strategy is that we have a wide open set of APIs that can virtually integrate with any other tool. We have worked with Infor on occasions, and I believe we've partnered with them as well in the past. So they're often, you use different tools for different things, right? So an ERP system has your supplier list, your customers, your products, your logistics around the orders and the purchase orders and the sales orders. And, if it extends into the MES territory, the actual delivery of the process through manufacturing. Our tool is going to allow you to track issues and ensure continuous improvement. So we have some customers that have multiple integrations with something like an Infor or any other tool that they have in place. And I'm talking ERP, but I can rattle off all kinds of acronyms like CRM, Customer Relationship Management Tool, PLM, Product Lifecycle Management Tool. Those tools are all good at their things, at what they do, but they're not quality management systems. So our strategy is to be configured if needed. And I want to stress something. We have an out-of-the-box solution for 42 different business processes available on the platform based on 35 years of experience, right? So you don't have to do a lot of work to implement our system because we implement best practices in the system. So we can get you implemented pretty quickly. But for those situations where you have needs that are different than what we pre-configure, if you've been in business for many years and you have a complex organization that has different business units that do things slightly differently, as I mentioned in my little presentation part that I did, we can harmonize those processes together so that 80% might be the same, but 20% may be different on a case-by-case basis. That's what allows us to implement our system at a global level. So the idea is that the system is going to harmonize that information and pull it all together for you.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And we're getting lots of great questions. And I just wanted to take a minute to address Michael's question about having a live demo of an EQMS. Absolutely. We can follow up with you after the webinar, Michael, for a live demo. And then Naden is asking about a ballpark initial cost and timeline for implementation of an entry-level configuration. Again, that's something that we would love to follow up with you afterwards. So thank you very much for putting that question out there, Naden. And then I have a question here from Carolyn about metrics and quality objective dashboard, if it's part of the quality management system.
We do have several reporting tools involved and with options. So we have a built-in utility called centralized reporting, where you can do analytics and reporting and trend analysis and other things. I mentioned the ETQ Insights tool. So it would have to be set up so that you can track what your quality objectives are. You might have certain objectives on a monthly basis, but then the applications in our system would allow you to capture the actual real-time data against those particular objectives. So the tool, the analytics tool, would be able to give you the ability, once it's set up, to automatically compare your objectives to your actual numbers on a case-by-case basis.
Great. Let's see. So here's a question from Vijay. Can EQMS easily integrate and pull data from SysPro ERP software? For example, the cost and delivered volume, etc.
Yes, it can. So that's really the short answer. But if you're doing things like percent yield and other things like, the number of nonconformances against the amount that you ship to a particular customer or whatever, you would need to be able to pull that information in automatically. So I should have just stayed with the short answer, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. And then here is a question from Donald. So based on the comment that we cover multiple industries, how customizable is ETQ? And second, is it module based?
I'm gonna get a little bit. I'm gonna split hairs a little bit on a term that you just used, because it's really near and dear to our heart. You mentioned the word customizable. We would argue that our system cannot be customized at all, but it can be 100% configured. So there's a difference. There's a fundamental difference to customize versus configure. If you'll indulge me in just clarifying that for 1 second. We use our own drag and drop ETQ designer tool, which is literally a configuration tool where we can build forms and drag and drop fields. We have like 20 field types to choose from. We can drag and drop workflow steps to automate that form through different business process steps. We literally use our own configuration tool to pre-configure the 42 applications that are available on our platform. And by the way, I'm not going to, there was a pricing question. The way we package our system, you don't have to buy the whole thing. You can just buy the parts you need, right? So we have a core set of applications for the most common processes, and then we have different application sets for additional things. So you can right size the licensing based on what you need, based on the concurrent users that you have, as well as the processes you have to implement. So the configuration tool, which is the ETQ designer, gives you, the non-technical administrator, the ability to configure the system to meet your own business process requirements. So yes, we do pre-configure it based on our 35 years of best practices experience, but we also provide implementation services to at least initially get the first phase of your project implemented. You might have two or three different applications like nonconformances and corrective action, just as an example, as the first phase. So we do the services to help you do that, so that it shows you how to do that. At the same time, we have this thing called ETQ Academy, which is an online learning management platform that your users and administrators will be using at the same time to learn how to use and administer our system. So then you can then configure the system moving forward to meet your own business process requirements. The system is so configurable that you can build your own applications on top of our platform that are going to look and feel just like every other application. Your users will already be familiar with it because they already know how to use it. The forms are going to look the same, the workflows. So the navigation essentially is the same. But what's really powerful about it is that you can implement any business process. And it can also integrate with any other tool as well. So every capability of our platform is available in any other process as well. So the customization was half the question, Jennifer. What was the other half of the question? I completely forgot.
Sure. Let me get there. Oh, is it module based?
Yes, it is module based, but we package them into application sets that are related processes that you can then choose to implement or at least have available on the platform.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. So you had mentioned scorecards earlier. So Sasha is asking, are the scorecards or ratings of the suppliers that are measured by the ETQ customers who use the system provided by ETQ? So do
Uh,
we supply the supplier scorecards?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Probably, I'm thinking templates. Do we provide templates for getting the supplier scorecards set up?
We provide a setup already, so it's already set up to function with a certain set of inputs, for different things based on the different things that are happening, on-time delivery, correct quantity, non-conformance reports, scars. Those things are all pre-set up. But most of our customers do some degree of modification of that because their own process is a little bit different. But I can tell you that we have helped customers save in a tremendous amount of time and money on this process because prior to implementing a system like ours, we have some customers that are so big that they had a problem with a supplier over here, but because they have it in a different system than this part of the organization, same supplier, but different system, they didn't know that they had a problem across the globe. So they wouldn't know if they went into business with a supplier over here that this part of the organization was having a problem with them. So it helped to normalize all that information and pull it all together so that they were able to hold their suppliers accountable. We even had customers that were able to do what's called charge back their suppliers for the inconvenience of nonconformances that they caused their customer, which is our customer, because they had the data. So
Mhm.
what you're doing is it's their own data and you're just holding them accountable because you now have a mechanism to once again harmonize all that information in one place. The information is extremely, extremely valuable. And if you have silos, that information is lost. There's no way to have visibility into that. So what our platform does, our harmonized global workflow-based platform does, is it pulls it all together so that you have a single source of the truth.
Yeah, I think they call that now bring in the receipts.
Bring in the receipts.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So here's a question from Jean. Notice you mentioned early on SAP. Can you pull data from SAP and sync it? And can it sync the NCR data between the two? And also, what are other major control products does it work with?
Okay. So our strategy is we can integrate with virtually anything that can support RESTful web services, which is most tools. So SAP happens to be our most common implementation as far as an integration is concerned, just because of the percentage of the marketplace that is using it. But it's not just one place. There may be multiple integrations. It depends on the touch points are going to really be based on your use case. So we can synchronize suppliers and products and customers from SAP so that when someone has a quality issue, they do a lookup and it's actually the data that had just been synchronized from SAP into our tool. Or if it's a product nonconformance that may be identified over in SAP, it could trigger a real-time integration of a nonconformance report in our system, which then triggers the workflow to automatically assign it to the right people. The disposition decision gets made. Maybe the disposition gets flagged back into their ERP system like SAP or whatever else might be in place so that it moves the product around in their facility like SAP does, but SAP is not as good at making quality decisions as EZQ Reliance is. It's all about using the right tool for the right thing. But our strategy has always been, in addition to being extremely configurable, the ability to easily integrate with other systems.
Absolutely. Okay. maybe a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. But I love how all of these questions are coming in. Thank you so much, everyone. Here's a question from Maxine. Does the system include a database of nonconformities?
I think what you mean is categories of nonconformities. And we do provide a sample in our system, but each implementation, each customer is going to have their own unique list of codes, like defect codes or problem codes. So we make it extremely easy to modify or import right from an Excel spreadsheet your existing types of codes, because when you have product problems, the best improvements are going to be when you have the best data regarding the codes. So we're not going to expect anyone to use just a set of standard generic codes. The more meaningful those codes are to you, the better data that you capture about the types of issues, and then you can tie that into root causes, right? And then you have the powerful reporting capability to look at the types of problems that you're having by code. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the concept of what's called a Pareto chart. The Pareto chart shows you the most common problem on the left, and then it gets lower as you go down to the right, because you can save the most money, and of course the impact on the cost of poor quality is on the highest cost problem. So if a Pareto chart shows you the most common defect code on the left side, well, maybe that's one that we should really focus on reducing in our process. And that process might involve corrective actions to revise procedures or work instructions. Maybe it's new training, maybe it's new equipment. There could be a whole bunch of different things that have to happen. But it's not, quality is a continuous process. It's not something that you're done with. Once you eliminate the top problem, right, then you might start to focus on some of the lower problems, not, the lower frequency or the lower cost, because you're eventually peeling the onion and you're going to get down to the fact that you're going to have an extremely efficient organization and an extremely efficient process.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, last question from Vijay. You mentioned safety management system. Is it part of the EQMS package or a module which needs to be purchased separately?
That's a really good question. So the way our system works is we have a core set of applications, which are most common compliance management processes, like audits management, corrective action, document control, training, and change management. So those are the 5 core applications that most organizations, whether it's a quality management system or safety management system, whatever compliance management system they're implementing, would have to implement. In addition to the platform itself that has all the utilities that are included as well. The health and safety application set is actually a set of 4 additional applications, and I'm going to see if I can remember them off the top of my head. Accidents and safety reporting to track incidents. And remember, we support mobile devices, so you can take your thing and just take a picture and create a new record and click a button. We also have what's called behavior-based safety, which is an application in there. So instead of a full-blown audit, a lot of safety management systems have these little checklists that you might do on a daily basis and just run through the facility, and there may be 10 questions or something like that. Are fire hydrants in place? Are there any messes anywhere? Is this or this or this? So it's a way you can basically implement those things. There's a job safety analysis application. So what that allows you to do, and if you think about a safety management system, you need to evaluate not only every operation, but every single task for the risk associated with that task. So what the JSA or job hazard analysis application allows you to do, it allows you to do the analysis of your processes first, assess risk, and then implement actions to reduce the risk, and then calculate the residual risk. That's what JSA does. And then there's SDS, or the safety data sheets application, which is very similar to document control in that it'll let you approve and revise records, but in this case, it's safety data sheets. So your end users can have easy access to them.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, everyone, for all of your wonderful questions and joining us today. We are so glad you could make it. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you, Tom, for all of your wonderful knowledge. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.